Hello, and welcome to the Spooky Chris podcast. I am the aforementioned Spooky Chris. Hello. Hey, how's it going? I finally figured out how to do my intro music and outro music on the device I use to record, which is pretty dope. I'm excited about it. How are you? What's going on? I am a Chris Ringler. This is my wee little podcast. I am an author, filmmaker, artist, general ne'er-do-well. You can find all my stuff at spookychris.com. And here we go. I kind of want to talk about conventions for the millionth time. I talk about them a lot because it's one of those things that I kind of know a skosh about from both sides of the table, as it were. And it's one of those things that, I think people don't realize sometimes kind of the fact that there's kind of two sides of the convention. Well, we'll say three. There's three. It's kind of like a triangle. There's the promoter. You can hear my dog singing, maybe. The promoter, the guests / vendors, and then the public. And, ideally you want to please all three sides in order to have the hope of a successful show. That's there's nothing's ever promised, nothing's ever guaranteed. You don't really know if you're really going to have a successful show. You just kind of got to hope for the best. There's so many things that go into it. It's hard to kind of, people can put tons of work into it and it can still kind of fall to crap. With the best intentions. There's a show, and I'm from the Mitten, and there's a show that is a big show. It's become a really big show, and it is put on in the late winter. And I've, when they first started, I'd considered like, oh, maybe that's the show I want to do. But I just can't commit to a show in, I want to say it's February, but it's February, late February, early March. But I don't want to commit to it because I know our state too well. And at least two of the shows have had just shy of blizzards. They still went on with them. Especially because that kind of a show, you're going to have, the guests are there generally. There's fans that have already booked hotels, and so there's at least a few people that are there. So it's kind of, it's kind of too late. You're just kind of hoping for the best, with the understanding that things ain't gonna go as well as you'd hoped. But there's an unstated kind of pact between the three sides, if everyone wants to have a successful show. And recently there was a recent college that was going to have a Comic-Con, their first one. I was excited at the prospect because it's one of those things where it's great for opportunity for artists and creatives, and it's great for the public. I think people, and it's unfortunate because you see that in our area big time. Maybe you see it in all areas where, and heaven knows I am guilty of this, where the focus is solely on guests. Like, who do they have? And if it's not anyone you care about, then you're like, who cares? And I get it because they've become so, like, bigger shows have become so expensive. The problem is that these smaller shows that are mainly focused on kind of eventy stuff, like kind of fun, interactive stuff for the fans and the like lower tier celebrities, be they wrestlers or cosplayers or B and C movie actors, and the vendors. And the vendors, like, these are people who, not a lot of them live off of this necessarily, not at these levels, but like still they do these shows for for the hope of getting their name out there and making some money and selling some stuff. And when these shows don't go off well, it screws a lot of things up. And there was a small show that was going to pop up, and again, like, what I do, I still do small shows and stuff, and I just, you know, the reason you do these things. So you either think you're going to make money, you think you're going to get something out of it, like, oh, I want to hang out with celebrities, I want to do this, that, or you want to kind of do something with the public and with the vendors and stuff. And I mean, I always am looking for places that I can sell my books for sure. And having a kid now, it's not as easy for me to go do shows. So I mean, that's always, can be in there. But a lot of these, I like I'm doing an art show this weekend, and my intention was not to be a part of it outside of putting it together. Because I have no interest in just putting things on that are just like a display for me, because that's just, my ego just isn't that silly. Unfortunately, one of the artists ghosted me and just disappeared. And so I kind of had to step in because no one else kind of was stepping up to take that place. So, for me, why do I do these shows? I do them because, like, where I live, there aren't a lot of those opportunities. So for fans of horror, fans of weird stuff, there's not a lot of stuff. There's not a lot of shows for them. And it stinks. It stinks because there's a great community. There's a lot of people. It's crazy how many people are into horror and weird stuff and music and everything, but don't support what we have. And we have had stuff for, shucks, since we started, me and the other group, and then solo for like 12 years now. And I know other people have done stuff, and we just don't support our own. We'd rather go to Detroit. And part of it's big guests, like, oh, I want to see Jason, I want to see Freddy, whatever the big guest. And I appreciate it. But I also think that people are missing out on, much like, sure, we'd love to all see, I don't know, it's not all. All is, lots of people would love to see the biggest, loudest blockbuster. But sometimes those smaller movies are the ones that hit you the hardest. And with the smaller shows, you have a better chance of supporting, artists, meeting people, like, in movies that you've seen them before even. Like, we're not even talking like I was in a local movie, but people that were in movies you would have seen. And just you get a chance to interact with them and have a moment. And that's great. But I love doing the shows because I love trying to support that in the area. I remember, when I was a kid, it would have been great if that kind of stuff existed locally. I can't say life-changing, but it would have been amazing for outsiders kind of like me and my friends who didn't have a lot of opportunities to kind of meet other folks like us and to kind of interact. I grew up in an era where the internet wasn't really much of a thing, so we kind of were isolated. And I really do, being one of those vendors, being one of those kind of small time, and I don't mean it in a derogatory way, but in someone who isn't a full-time creative, just to be able to support that. I love it. And so it was disappointing when I learned that convention that was going to be at the local college was canceled. And I was confused. I had wanted to kind of help them out, but wasn't able to kind of be boots on the ground as a volunteer. I wanted to, was going to just, I can't get away. But I was disappointed to hear that they canceled. And then you find out that it was basically a vendor kind of pulled the show down. There was a vendor who was a retail vendor who felt that there was not enough clear communication with the convention, and that they weren't promoting it enough for their liking, this vendor's liking, and they felt that they had offered to help and do all these things, and they weren't being listened to or heard. And so, and what's one of those things where they had supposedly told a bunch of people, like, oh, you should do the show, and they felt frustrated that they were going to go into the show and didn't feel it was being supported, and they had put their, I don't know, they felt they had put their reputation on the line. On the convention side, see, and I can only speak to, that's the stuff I know, because I read the post that they made, and it was a very dramatic post, like, oh, hate to do this, and gosh, I just, you hate this to happen, but, and it was very self-involved, very silly, because by them making this big declaration, all of these other vendors started to pull out, because all of a sudden, like, oh, well, gosh, if they're pulling out, I'm pulling out. I'm not going to do it. The thing is, this was a 2-day show. Tables were $15. It was a first-year show. And myself, I've done shows that were first year or, early on, and you go in understanding, like, hey, man, they're building this. Maybe it'll be a big, huge success. Maybe it won't, but they're building it. So you act accordingly. You don't necessarily take everything you have. You kind of go in with lowered expectations. It's a low-dough show. If you can't make $15 over 2 days, I don't know what to tell you. And even if you get like a bigger space, okay, like $100, which that to me means that you make more money at shows. I did a show not that long ago where it was free, and I asked a vendor, I was like, oh, hey, how'd you do? I've done better. I've done worse. I saw how much business he was doing, and he had paid nothing to be there. He paid his gas and whatever. Like, it's silly. So I know both sides of the table, because again, I can also say, they may not have been promoting it because they were like a college and not an organization that does this stuff. They may have not understood that these kind of things you are promoting for a while. And part of that is because people, schedules fill up. The summer and spring are so busy for conventions and sports and, family reunions and graduations, so much stuff going on that you really need to put it out there to kind of have people thinking of it. But, so I get that there is a real good chance, a probability that they weren't really communicating well. But the thing too is this. Everyone promotes their things differently. I try to promote gradually and then build up, because you don't want to hit a point where people are tuning out. They're like, oh God, that again. I've seen this 100 times. I would see that with local bands, like, oh my God, we're playing, over and over again every day. Post. It's like, okay, we got it. It's great. And I get it. I appreciate the excitement. That's why I never was posting a lot of my book release stuff. I was like, I'd make one post and like that'd be it, because basically I'm selling to the converted, as it were. It's like my friends were they either were physically supporting and not just morally supporting my books, or they were morally supporting, or they didn't care. And the fact was that I wanted to sell my books to strangers. I don't want to sell them to just people I know, because I don't want to feel like I only have book sales because someone feels bad for me, or they feel like, oh gosh, I got to support them. Like, I don't want it. It means more to me if it's a stranger that putting their money on the line, saying like, I'm going to take a risk on this. That means so much more. And that's what I always was trying to do. So for me, I always took promoting shows that I was a part of seriously. And that is part of the Pact, is that you expect, as a vendor, them to put on a show as well as they can, to be very clear in their instructions, to be clear in how how you get there, how you set up, how they're running things, who's going to be there, where you're going to be, and eventually that they'll promote it, and they will promote it to the best of their ability. We would do these convention stuff, and we didn't have I didn't carve out, now blame me, I didn't carve out a part of the budget to promote like on TV and radio and print and stuff. I'd rather spend the money on the show, and we did okay, but like we could have done better had I done things differently. But again, we were working with a strict budget, and we're doing the best we could. With community college, I don't know, but I imagine the thought was like, okay, cool, we're gonna get through graduation and do what we got to do, and then we're gonna like really get to promoting this thing. And they probably assumed too much in that, oh, well, people are going to come. But the thing is that as vendors, and I've dealt with this so many times, as vendors and artists and creatives, you need to support and promote the shows you're doing. You have whatever fan base, friend base you have. You need to be like, hey, this is where I'm going to be. Come on out, blah, blah, blah. And I've seen so many folks that will just let it go. and from people that are involved with the show and stuff, they're just like the day before, like, come on out tomorrow. We're going to be doing this. I'll be there all day. Cool. Like no enthusiasm, doing it because they feel like have to at the last second. So they expected the venue, the promoters, to do all of the work, to do everything, and they're just going to show up. And God, it happens so much at conventions and stuff. When you think of, like, we had a big comic convention over this last weekend. I mean, God, there's probably 100, we probably had to be at least 100 vendors. And if all 100 vendors really put themselves into it to promote it, that'd make a huge impact. Now, this show that was here was a huge regional show, so you don't have to as much. But to me, as a professional, if I'm going to do this stuff and take it in front of people, I'm going to act like a professional. Otherwise, I'm going to be a clown and I'm wasting everyone's time. So if I'm going to act like a professional, I'm going to support it as much as I can as well. Maybe there's one person I know that was like, oh, I didn't know that was coming up. I want to come. Like, and if that person comes, maybe they tell a friend. Because to me, I want more people there. More people at this show means more opportunities for me to sell, for me to promote my work. It's silly not to. And it's, even guests should want people, like their fans and stuff, in that area. Because again, you're trying to make money. All of this, if everybody does their job, if everybody works together, everybody can make money. But so often, one side will fall apart. And again, when we did a big convention in, I think, 2014, and at the last second, I got a call, and we were going to have the Green Goblin. It's the guy, great guy, and he rebuilt the front of the Green Goblin semi from Maximum Overdrive. And he takes it out. We booked him, and he gives me a call, and he's like, "Hey, man, I know a guy who owns a Christine, and he was going to do this show in Ohio, and it fell apart, and he's pulling out. Do you want him? It'll be X amount." And of course we wanted him. And basically what happened is that show is the promoters kind of disappeared on everyone. Guests didn't get paid. People started leaving in the middle of the convention. People pulled out because they basically stopped communicating. They weren't paying people. I remember one of the guests famously showed up, like they weren't picked up at the airport. They showed up to the hotel and did not have a room booked for them. So promoters, even with the best intentions, can basically bite off too much and screw everybody in the same way. And if you've already paid money and stuff and you're going to be there, like, you try to go through with it and hope for the best. That's what was silly about this guy, this vendor that was going to be at that show, and then it's like, well, I'm not going to do it. I just can't. I'm going to spend all this money, and I'm not doing it. And then it's complaining about how all of these people they know had made stuff for the show. Well, by you pulling out like you do, now you've screwed the show, yourself, and all of your friends that were creatives that made all this product, which they can just sit on it for a second, but like, it's frustrating. And again, I've been parts of shows that people don't promote, and that it's kind of a hot mess, and you're just frustrated. But that's life, man. I've done shows when barely anybody showed up that I didn't put on, but that people barely showed up, and they were promoted. It's the nature of the beast. Sometimes people want to come out, sometimes they don't, and it sucks. It sucks to do those shows because you're hauling stuff and you're paying money to be there and blah blah blah, and everybody's putting this work in, and the public doesn't care. But that's the way it is sometimes. You build it and they don't come. I wish that wasn't the case, but it is sometimes. You build it and they don't come. And all you can do is just, the best you can, and build it the best you can and hope for the best. Sometimes, the stars don't always align. But the only way these shows work is if everyone works together. If the promoters promote the show, if they put together a show that makes sense, if they have a layout of the venue that makes sense and isn't too cramped, if they don't overbook, if they don't overspend. I see this, and I always get because the idea of doing a show sounds great. And you're always like, oh, there's so many fans for this and that. It's going to be great. We're going to make so much money and blah, blah, blah. Whether you think you're going to personally get rich or just keep doing shows. But you forget how expensive these things are. It's like you have to pay for the venue. You have to pay for a green room. You pay for hotel rooms, for flights if someone's coming into town. You pay for appearance fees if it's just someone regional. You may have to rent tables. advertising if you do that. And then so you try to offset it with vendor prices, but you don't want to price it too high, because in my mind it's like, what are we offering that they should be paying for, and is it enough to get the money that I want from them? They've got to balance out. You can't say, oh well, I think it's worth blah blah blah. Well, then you might price yourself out. So it's a balancing act, and you've got to be careful how you do things. So it's not as easy as it seems, and then you've got to have reliable help. That's why I'm doing the shows I do are very small, just because I want to work solo. But like if you're going to do bigger shows, you have to have reliable help, and you probably have to have volunteers, because there's all of you want to take care of your vendors, your guests, and then the fans. You want to make sure they're okay and everybody's happy. 1 year, thankfully my now wife was on hand. Somebody we actually became close to had fainted, and in the middle of the show, and got a nosebleed and fainted, and I would have just stopped dead. My wife was like, everybody back, 1, 2, 3, do this, do that, do this. Like they got an ambulance for her, and it was just she had fainted. It was just no big deal. But like someone that's cool and calm and level-headed there to kind of take control was what we needed, and that's what we had. And I've been to shows where stuff like that happens, and it's handled and stuff. And that's what you need, is you need to be able to, you got to be able to roll with stress. When we did shows, one of our guests disappeared to go and have sex with a teenager. Well, she was probably like 20, and he was in his 50s. And then we had one where one of the guests was supposed to be a guest of honor, and he kind of just didn't want to participate. So you have stuff, and you just have to roll with it. You have to deal with it. On the vendor side, you can't come in expecting to be catered to like you're a guest. You're paying to be there, and you deserve certain things. But so often you'll get people that are act super entitled, act fools, or they will not really even participate fully. Like, God, I go to so many Comic-Cons, and you'll see the artists, and they're just sitting there ignoring people drawing. And I get that that's kind of their pose, and I'll understand. I will understand that some of these folks are introverts, and it's kind of like the Kurt Cobain thing. It's like, well, I don't want to perform in front of people, but I'm a rock star, so I have to. That's part of the job. So these folks, to promote their stuff, they have to be in front of people. So I do understand it, but you also can build a persona. You can build up, like, these people do shows a lot. Sitting there acting like you're just, like, indifferent to people, and they'll even come up and talk, hey, how are you? Fine. What's up? And then they'll only, like, hey, yeah, so this is this, that, and, like, they'll go into a sales pitch, and then when there's not, like, an interest, it's like, oh, never mind. It's one of those things. It sucks, because I know myself, like, it was just cool sometimes to go and talk to these folks and just get to know new people and creatives and people that are kind of like-minded to a degree. And like so many of them just, nope, no, I'm not into it. Or they go there to act fools and cut up and party. And they're like throwing stuff back and forth to all the other vendors. They just have a great time. And it's great. Everybody should have fun and have a good time, but you are also there to work. And so are everybody else. So while you're having fun, throwing stuff back and forth and cutting up and being silly, the person next to you might have a different attitude, might not be as established as you are, whatever. Might take it more seriously than you, or maybe they don't, who knows. But they might want to just focus on doing what they feel is their work, and they can't. And it sounds great on paper, like, oh yeah, everybody's having fun, it's great, but it can get annoying over the course of 3 days. I remember being stuck a few times next to essentially carnival barkers who I'm like, hey, how you doing? Like, what's going on? Blah, blah, blah. This is my book. And they're like, hey, come over here, buy my book. Oh yeah, it's the best thing here. Hey, you buy this book, blah, blah, blah. And they would yell at people. And it would work for them. I don't know how, but it would work from time to time. It would drive me crazy. I remember what made me get into self-publishing. It was funny, and not even in like talking smack kind of thing. I wish I could remember this guy's book or his name. I remember setting up, and this one I didn't have any other book, just the one book and some chapbooks. in the magazine we'd done, and just some personal art, like whatever, just some random stuff. And the guy sat next to me at the comic convention, big comic convention, thick book, like, I mean, God, probably 500 pages, plain cover. It wasn't very exciting. Set him up in like a pyramid on the table. That was all he had. And I was like, oh, buddy. And the book was $25. It's like, buddy, this is not going to go well. He sold out. He sold out of his books. Like, he had a great pitch. It was a superhero book, and it was before superheroes had really blown up. Like, I mean, probably even, maybe Iron Man era, maybe. Well, it would have been 2009, so around that era, but maybe before. Sold out. He had his own pitch, and he had it. And but that's what got me into self-publishing, is he self-published it. But conventions are cool because you can learn so much from other vendors. I've made so many friends at these things and met so many amazing people. So even if you go and it's a bummer show, like, you can still you can make business connections, you can make friends, you can make future work, collaborators. You meet people who are promoting other shows that you might want to do. It's silly to pull the tent down. Like, it's one thing to go through with it and talk smack, like, oh man. It's another to sabotage it for everybody, because there's more people than you. If you don't want to do it, cool. Like, hey, I've decided not to. I'm not gonna be able to do the show. I'm sorry. Blah blah blah. And I get people. Oh, I'm gonna stand to my ground, and I'm my personal morals and blah blah blah. Cool for you, but don't ruin the good time for everybody else. Because you could bow out, and everyone else could have had a great time, and maybe it just wasn't the show for you. That's the thing. And maybe cut back on what you were going to bring. Like, I don't feel like you're promoting this enough. And you had like a few weeks. You're already in. So you could be like, well, I don't think they're promoting it well. I'm going to promote it myself. And I'm going to dial back what I was going to bring. And if you sell out, well, gosh, I learned a lesson, and great. This is great for everybody then. And now I know, and next time, whatever. But it stinks when, and I've had promoters. I've had, shows that just like aren't honest. Like, guests will pull out, and they won't tell people ahead of time. So fans show up and like, oh, I thought you were going to have so-and-so. They had to cancel. Oh, cool. That was the one person I want to see. Yeah, they canceled. But we have some great other guests. It happens. We had guests cancel, like everybody does, because these are, a lot of them are working actors, working professionals. And so if a gig comes up, it's like, oh man, I can make 50,000, 100,000, whatever more on this project, or I can make a couple grand off of you. Which one am I going to do? I mean, you can't get upset about it. You can't get in your feelings about it. It's just, it's straight logic. And it's what you deal with. We were lucky enough, one of our bigger guests, he was working that Friday. He worked late Friday, took a red eye, and it cost me money because I had to rebook a flight. It was no big deal, whatever. We dealt with it. He didn't even show up until like late in the day Saturday, but he was like, I'll stay as long as I have to for folks so they can meet me if they want to. And he offered to not even take money from us. He was like, did you make money? If you didn't make money, I don't need the fee. Because you'll get people like that, especially genre folks. Like, a lot of, not necessarily they'll like do it for free, but that are very understanding, very cool, very mellow. It's like, treat them well and they'll treat you well. But some of these shows are just, they're out for money, they're out for clout, and they are not in it for the right reason, and they're over their head, and they screw everybody. And that sucks too, and I get it. But again, sometimes you have to go through with it. And if it was too much money for you to spend in the first place, don't do the show. There's plenty of shows that I'm just like, ooh, too rich for my blood. I mean, and cons are about $350, I think, to do for a 3-day show, and that's outrageous. Because, like, for me, I never made it back. Basically, it was my vacation. I would go for 3 days and just have fun and see people and hopefully make a little bit of money back to kind of offset the cost to be there. Other folks, I would know people that would just make tons of loot. So it's as much about me as anything else. It's not like, oh, well, that was a bad show. 'Cause no, it's just, people weren't into what I had. That's life's life. But it's one of those things that it's a shame to cheat the public and everybody out of it if you have a bad attitude and you're just over it. And again, I get it. I understand. And I support people like being over stuff and just like, nope, I don't want to fool with it. Totally dig it. Like, you shouldn't have to support stuff that you don't believe in. And you shouldn't have to prop up some kind of a convention that doesn't know what they're doing. I get it. I get it. But you also you don't have the right to screw people and to screw the fans and the other vendors and everybody else because you have doubts. If you have doubts, talk to the people yourself and either work it out or move on, and don't make a big scene. And then when it's over, you can tell people privately, but just don't. There's no reason to burn it down unless there's a reason to burn it down. And it was very frustrating to see that, and it's frustrating when I've dealt with so many vendors who bail on at the last second, so they leave you with like. If you think of a convention as a grin, they leave you with like a missing tooth. They just something came up, and maybe they tell you, maybe they don't. They just don't show up, or maybe they even show up late in the day, the one day, or a day late, and it's like, again, maybe they tell you, maybe they don't. And everybody has drama, everybody has stuff going on, but there needs to be more understanding on both sides for these things to work. And if you're not going to bother to do that, then there's it's kind of a waste of everyone's time, and it's a drag. It's a drag when that happens. So I hope, my friend, you are doing well. Everything is groovy. You can find all my stuff at spookychris.com. All of my books, all of my everything, my podcasts, my little short movies. I will talk to you soon, friend. I will be talking to you soon.